Thanks, George. And I'm joined, as always, here by Chief Operating Officer Stephen Jones. And it's supposed to be a quiet bye week. It certainly wasn't. Stephen made a really big news, one of the biggest news in the NFL. You got Amari Cooper from the Oakland Raiders. Talk about that trade and what he's going to bring to this team.
Well, it's something that we started actually, the week before the Redskin game, and didn't quite get it across the goal line that week. But we've really evaluated ourselves, and given an opportunity to get a receiver like Amari, then we really felt like it was in our best interest to do so. Obviously, we'd shopped hard, offered Sammy Watkins quite a bit of money there in the offseason. Didn't work out, so we went to the by platoon, by the numbers. And but when this opportunity came up, we, really did an evaluation. Will, myself, Jason, Jerry, and just said, hey, what are we going to be using this first-round pick? I think it was a consensus that we'd like for it to be receivers. You don't ever want to draft for need, but sure, try to get it into a position. And we looked at, what it had cost historically to move up to get these top receivers. And, when it was all said and done, just felt like this really fit, and not just for this year. Don't get me wrong. I think he can really help us this year. It's a wide open NFC East. Washington's got a little lead on us and the Eagles, but a lot of football left to be played, and I do think he can really bring a lot to the table for this year. But the bigger thing is he's 24 years old. He's right in there the same age as Zeke and Dak, and can grow with this team. We've got a good offensive line, and obviously our thoughts is we'll come in here and we'll see how he interacts and plays, but more than likely, based on everything we've seen, is to get a player of this caliber that's only 24, already been to 2 Pro Bowls, was just too good for us to pass up. It's obviously very painful when you give up your first-round pick, but I just feel getting a young player like this that can be part of our foundation on a very young football team was the right move for us to make.
So when you're talking about first-round picks and studying how old he is or young he is, really, for that matter, do you even look ahead to say what's in the draft, what's coming up, evaluating what we think these guys are going to be? So technically your first-round pick is already here. He's got to jump on the rest of the league.
Well, that's certainly the way we looked at it. The one thing you do give up is obviously we've given up 3.5 years of production and of getting a player at a good rate, even though those high first-round picks get paid a lot of money too. But we did give that up, but that's the way we look at it. Our first-round picks here playing for us. We certainly looked at the draft, what was going to be in the upcoming draft in terms of receivers and any other things that might be there for us, if assuming we're going to be picking in anywhere from the middle to the back end of the draft. That's kind of how we looked at it, and we just felt like we weren't going to get a player of this caliber, and plus to get to have that player right now when we still feel like we're in the middle of a good competitive hunt for the NFC East was the right fit for us. What
type of receiver are you getting? You said before, no number ones are on the street. They're not available. We'd love to have one if one was available. Is he that number one guy, and what does he bring to this offense?
Well, we certainly think he is, or we wouldn't have given up a one. And, we didn't pass on some receivers last year because we thought they were more twos. But we had Amari, he was graded as a top 10 type player for us when he came out. You don't pick top 10 players unless you think they're number ones. And a lot of people miss on those guys. And, for him to have come in and established himself as a Pro Bowl type player, a productive type player, you take the risk out of it. But we do think we're getting a one. He's got the size. He's got incredible speed to stretch the field. He's a great route runner. He's a good person in terms of anything to do off the field. Actually, he's got a huge plus in that he's not one of these diva types. A lot of these receivers, as we all know, they can be. We've had several around here. But he's actually, doesn't bring that element. And I just think he wants to come in here and compete and bring something to the table. But truly, we do think, because ultimately it's going to, it'll take a number one type contract, I think, to get him. I think, it was competitive. I think we ultimately obviously gave the most, or we wouldn't have gotten him. I don't think the Raiders gave them to us because they like us or anything. I think it was, who was going to pay, and they were very upfront for weeks that, hey, it's going to take a one. If we don't get a one, we'll keep him. And we ultimately decided it was worth giving up the one. We know teams had offered twos, and there was a team maybe offered a one but wanted something back. But we just felt it was worth the compensation to get him.